Okay. And I will be here at the school today if anybody needs to, call or reach out, doing some organizing and cleanup today after break. Um, so hold on tight. There we go. We are ready to roll. We got action. All right, mic check 1, 2. All right, everybody say something. Let me hear your voice real quick.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, good morning.
Switch it. That's all I know.
Getting headed on 85.
Where is it? Where is it?
This wall right here.
Oh, my bad.
You look.
Hold on, guys. Oh, there right
Yeah,
there? I thought it didn't work.
Yeah, it worked. Yeah, it was on 85.
Maybe if I
And
should have
was
just
off.
put it on.
Yeah,
I'm
I just put
sorry.
it on. I got it on 7. Okay.
Don't tell
All right.
nobody. Okay. I appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay. Hello. Y'all, the maintenance man just came and he said the whole time I had the everything off. Oh, silly me. It's all right. All right. But I'm excited. Let's jump in. Let's see what we have going on. All right, we're gonna hit 1 and 2 first, and then we'll talk about products and ingredients. Really excited about what we have. Chapter 1 and 2, and really, this is the black book. Everyone has access to this when it comes to ebooks. Um, this is career opportunities and history of aesthetics. This is chapter 1. So when you guys come in, it's almost like not so much aesthetics. With cosmetology, with Milady, the textbook we have, you have 2 books. One of the books is the same for nails, aesthetics, cosmetology, so on and so on and so on. Okay. And so your first chapters are going to be a part of the one that's the same. So everybody gets these same chapters. So even if you do see aesthetics, it's the same chapters. Your core chapters are going to be separate. So your hairstyling, that's in a separate book. But your soft skills, such as like business management, sanitation, communication, also career choices, career opportunities, hygiene, everybody has those same chapters. So it'll be the same across the board, okay? A few things that we have to make sure that we address is when you come into an industry, there's so many career choices. I want you to not just look at the familiar ones that you may have already seen or you've experienced, but what could come in the future, okay? What could come in the future? So as I look at cosmetologists, let me just tell you, I started doing hair because I started on myself. My mom was in beauty school, and of course, I was the mannequin. Everything my mom learned in beauty school, she came and she did it on me. And my dad, one day, she was on chemical weave or perming. That's Jera curl and things like that. I had a Jera curl. I had really long hair. And then the next week, they were on relaxers. So guess what? I got a relaxer. Y'all are not gonna believe this, but at the point that curl and that permanent wave and that relaxer touched, all of my hair broke off. All of it. Okay, all of my hair broke off. And my dad told my mom, if you ever touch her hair again, there's a D word, Divorce. And he was serious. So guess what? My mom was like, y'all got it. I'm not going to touch it again. And I think 7 to 9, I started doing my own hair or learning to do my own hair. And from there, just continue work and practice. And my mom, did hair, had supplies around the house. So there was no pushback when I started to maintain my own hair. So my grandmother told me one day when I was 13, she said, you're going to make a lot of money one day. I didn't know that she was speaking that into my life. And so the next day, someone called for me to do their hair for the very first time. And I've been rolling ever since. At that time, I never thought of being a teacher, never thought of being a salon owner. It was a blessing in high school that that was my job. Okay, that was my job because it helped provide for my family in times of need. And that's something my family always remember is a part of our life where we depended on salon services, clients coming to the house so we can pay the bills. And I'm being 100% transparent with you. Never thought that would turn into teaching. So while I was in high school, I did it. So I graduated pretty much with all of my hours, just needed to take the test. I found me a school that would show me how to take the test and just give me a little brush up. And I thought that I was going to spend all my years college-wise at University of Memphis, and got there the first year and was like, I miss doing hair. And found me a college that helped me get my license. And from there, that's when the book of you show and illustrate really well. You should probably teach. And I started teaching on a dare because somebody dared me to teach, I said, oh, wow. And went down there, they hired me and I trained for 3 years under these mentors. I trained for 3 years. And after that training, I got my own classroom and I've taught. I was like between 19 and 21. So 22, I probably got my own classroom. I'm 45 now. So you're talking, from 20 to 45, definitely like 25 years, 26 years, and you're talking 19 of teaching. But in that span of teaching, I have been a platform artist, still a platform artist, private local educator, but also educator for big major companies. I've been a consultant, I've been a coach. I have owned salons, I owned school, I have been a distributor before. And so it's so many things you could do under one license. Like beauty has been my career. And I love beauty, but what I have always done was grow and expand with beauty with the time. And so sometimes you guys could get licensed and you'll see people 5 years later saying, I'm done, I'm bored, I don't want to do that anymore. And they throw away all of their sacrifices. I want to, make sure that I let you guys know that it's always growth. You don't always have to be behind a chair. You don't always have to just do hair. You don't always just have to do facials and brows and lashes. There are so much more you can do. And I feel like with all I've done, I have I'm rolling into chapter 2. So it's a whole new beginning. There's so much more to be done. Okay. And so I don't want you guys to get stuck on one thing or that thing you know how to do the most or do the best. It is so much you can do. One of my favorite things was becoming a colorist. And I was a departmental colorist. And so you would say, Miss Cox, what's a departmental colorist? I love color so much. I only did clients. I would only receive clients only if they were getting color. Only if they were getting color. Okay. Only if they were getting color. And I absolutely loved it. And so everybody else could do what they want, but that's what I did. That was my niche. And I love it. I wouldn't change, any of it for the world. But that's one thing that I would seriously do is just make sure that I explore all the different things you could do. I haven't been a makeup artist yet, but I'm also an esthetician. Um, I also started weaving and extensions, making wigs way back in the day. So you guys heard of a quick weave. Well, I learned how to do a quick weave from the guy who created the quick weave. And so I don't get to tell those type of stories, but I traveled all the way to St. Louis because the guy is from Detroit, and I heard he was going to be in St. Louis doing a class. And I was the first one on the front row. And when he said he needed some help, needed somebody to put some glue on the tracks, I ran to the stage. It was just a blessing. It's like people admire football and basketball celebrities and things like that. I felt like he was the hair celebrity. And so I learned quickly from him. I learned wig making from him. And after a while, I just did not ever want to be stuck in one thing. So I just kept going. Okay. Once you master this, go to something else because you never know when those skills are going to come up. Who would have ever thought I would have opened up a school and the first course would be aesthetics? So me taking that year off from hair and learning skincare, making sure I had the license and things like that, that really came into play maybe 15 years down the line. So everything goes. You never know why you're learning this, but any kind of trainings you can get your hands on, webinars. There's a training today. And I think it may be in a few minutes, but there's a training today with reflective seal on brow lamination. Um, Anything online. I like to travel to shows and go. I just become a student. I go to every class I want to go to. Just have that freedom to do that. Um, do not just sit around and say you're content with just the license you have. You have to keep going. You have to keep pushing. I'm gonna put on my goal board. I do want the laser certification. I want a national laser certification. Um, and so I don't know if that's coming at the end of the year, but I'm definitely going to get that master laser certification this year. So excited about that. But there's so many career opportunities. When you see the different ones that we're going to talk about, I want you to take the time. I want you to take the time and think about. Don't think about where you are now, but think about the places you could go. Okay, the places you could go. Learning objectives. Here's some of the things that you're going to learn in this chapter. I'm going to explain to you the different career opportunities and a little bit about the history of those. Let me just take note. Did you guys know that eyelashes were first worn by men? Go to the chat. Yes or no? Did you know that eyelashes were first worn by men? Mhm. Teresa, since I know you like coffee, we got to make sure we have our coffee in the mornings. I'm put you in charge of coffee. Do I need to bring a Keurig so you can get our coffee? Yes, I know, Danielle. Eyelashes were first worn by men. Number two, eyelashes were first applied. They were sewn together like a sew-in, y'all, one hair at a time. So they would make the eyelash strips, like little weaving things, like you're doing yarn. It would be so small and tiny. And then they would sew that onto the eyelashes. So your first strips, they were sewed on hair by hair. I'm just like, yeah, when you got the time, yeah. And the more elaborate the eyelashes were, yes. I mean, not now, probably. We ain't made like they were made back in the day. But here's the thing, the more weight that you put on your eyelashes, you're making them heavy, you could loosen or you could lose those hairs. And so we don't know what type of threading they use. They used to weave together. It almost was like silk. So we don't know the weight of those. But yes, go into look at the history on in the lash course on the portal. Look at the history and you'll see that men were some of the first ones to wear eyelashes, and the first like strip eyelashes, they used to apply them by sewing them on hair by hair. Okay. It's almost like a blanket almost. And then the more elaborate the lashes are. Think about, you've seen people with, they have hybrids, or you've seen people that wear layers of lashes or lashes that are like really extreme. But guys, the more elaborate the lashes were, as far as the more heavier and detailed they were, it showed a class of more, you had more money, because wearing lashes was only affordable by people who were rich. And so you think about it now, everybody, everybody wear lashes. And it doesn't even, that richness, that luxury is not even in them unless you are talking about some of the best quality or human hair lashes that you can find. Okay. So that's something I want you guys to just, notes to check and verifiable things. That's just something. And so you're going to learn about those and the opportunities. When I tell you why I wanted to know what you wanted to learn, because I have uh, a database. I'm a directory of resources. I have so many friends that I've traveled with and did shows and educational trainings with, that when you're good to people, people are good to you, and they always want to pour back into students. So I'm thinking I'm going to set up maybe 2 or 3 people to join us on Zooms throughout September, just so we can learn about their career choice. What are some of the reasons they chose to specialize in these particular areas? Just so you can do some field research. You say, hey, okay, that's profitable. I never looked at it, but I need to check that out over there. Sometimes you have to do that. And even with aesthetics, I went to Las Vegas and I learned how to do intimate bleaching, which is vaginal bleaching in the vaginal area, and also I learned anal bleaching. And it was very weird to me, but I wanted to do something I've never done before. I wanted to learn something I've never done before. And usually when you go out, and so when I go out to different cities or countries or states, I noticed that I'm always asking what's hot. And that's something you guys could do when you go on vacation, or even when you travel. Find a spot to just go into and see what their services are like. Find a salon to just go into and just see what their services are like. Okay. They can't pick the smallest thing. They can't do much damage, but it's good if you love your craft. It's good to see what they're doing on the East Coast. It's good to see what they're doing on the West Coast. Why? Because most of the time, fashion has a big influence on what the trend is and what is going to look like in the South. And you may say, Ms. Cox, what are you talking about? Well, when the trend of fashion comes in, or whatever's hot, whatever the culture has, or whatever's popping, it's usually going to come in on major ports, and it's going to come in through major cities, and mainly it may be LA or New York. So when it comes in from LA and New York, it then trickles down. So a lot of times in the South, you didn't have more so South traveling up north. We would catch on to styles, but it would be old by the time we get it. It would be old to them and new to us. And so that's why I'm always, no matter if you're cosmetology, aesthetics, nails, always look and see what other areas of the country is doing, what other countries are doing, so you can be on top of the trends. And you got to get outside of Memphis, Shelby County, Tennessee, so you can be able to see and bring back to your clients fresh. Everybody wants something fresh, new, what they don't see everybody else doing. And so your clients will support you, and you'll find you'll have a loyal client base because they know you're going to go out and you're going to get solutions, and you're going to come back and help them and build them up. So that's always amazing. So with your cosmetology license and with your aesthetics license, I need you to put two things in the group. You're going to do in the chat. You're going to do this after I introduce the career opportunities. One thing that you would love to do, and number two, what would be the runner-up? You don't do it already, but hey, I think I could do that. Okay. We're going to look at the career options under licensed estheticians and cosmetologists. What I want you to learn, and this is for everybody, and I'm going to write this in the chat. Do anyone know what that means? Scope of practice. Do anyone know what that means? Scope of practice. Do anyone know what that means? Scope of practice. Put it in the, somebody can unmute if you know what scope of practice means. Okay, we're about to let you know, T. Danielle, we're about to let you know. Okay. Okay. Okay, scope of practice is like a parameter. All right. All right, Indiana. It's a parameter. Okay. So as a cosmetologist, your license is hair, skin, and nails, which means you can do all three. Okay. You still have parameters, but you can do all three. As an esthetician, your scope of practice is only skin. You have a few things in hair you could do, but it's very particular. A scope of practice is a boundary. So your license, you have a boundary around your license. When you step outside of the boundary, that's when you're out of order. You're outside of your scope of practice, which means if you were sued, you could really be sued for your socks because you're not even supposed to be doing that because it's outside of what your license covers. All right. So a lot of time, and I'm talking to my estheticians and cosmetologists, a lot of us are working, a lot of people, not us, are working outside the scope of practice. You'll say, Ms. Cox, how did you know? What do you mean? Well, there's social media. And with social media, they curate clickbait. A lot of times in social media, we're interested on things because it looks fun or it looks good. But let me tell you, the state regulates your scope of practice. So for cosmetology and estheticians, this is a law for Tennessee. You cannot use a bare blade on the face. Y'all heard me. You cannot use a bare blade on the face. So that means you can't do eyebrow arches with a razor. You cannot do dermaplaning. That's the tool with the hard blade that goes across the face to remove the unwanted hair, the peach fuzz that's on the face. You cannot use a bare blade on the face. Who can use a bare blade? Only barbers. Only barbers. Their training includes using the razor. They have chapters in their book that says it trains them to use razor on the face because they're doing shaving. All right. So barbers are only allowed in Tennessee to do fresh blades on the face. Now, estheticians and cosmetologists, you can use protective blades. You know what a protective blade is? A protective blade is like a buffered blade, but it's almost in the family. It is in a family of eyebrow archer you'll get on the top counter of the beauty supply store. You know, they be like pink and yellow and green. That's what Tennessee says you can use in place of the blade on the face. And so using those, you remain inside your scope of practice. Okay. Also, when we look at scope of practice, cosmetologists, estheticians cannot do body contouring. Let that sink in. That is outside the scope of practice. Okay, that is outside the scope of practice. Did y'all know that? Body contouring is in the family of a massage therapist. All right, it's in the family of a massage therapist. It is so many things. And so it's our job and it's your job once you're done, it's your job to keep up with state law, what's going on. Every other month, y'all, your state board that regulates your license, they meet and they tell you what they're about to do. You need to always be aware of what they're about to do because your license is something you've invested in. You plan on making a lot of money, a great career from it. And if you don't show up, if you don't, seem interested, a lot of things could be swept away right under your fingernails, your fingertips. Okay. So just make sure you learn the scope of practice. So what you can do and what you cannot do with a license. I'm gonna list types of existing aesthetics and cosmetology practices to help chart your career path. And we're heavy talk about salon and suite ownership. Okay. And especially when it comes to cosmetology, I do like to talk about, and this is aesthetics too, booth rental versus commission, mentorship versus jumping right in. It's always good to become a junior stylist or a junior esthetician before jumping in, because for me, you can take a whole year as a junior esthetician or a junior stylist to learn the business, learn how to do your book, learn how to flow to clients, learn how to do the proper treatment at the bowl, and learn when they are booking your time, how to make that time continuously make you money. And so a lot of times it's just a sacrifice. Some people like to jump right in, but I'm always going to discuss what works best for my students. So we'll talk about those things to chart your career, what additional training you may need for certain things. This may just be a pit stop for you, and that's fine. So outline skincare practices from early cultures So skincare and hair, the things that they used to do in the early cultures. Let me say this for number 4. To get their hair curly, your ancient Egyptians, to get their hair curly, they used to take dirty water, mix it up. Of course, it becomes mud. They take their hair and they'll take a little bit of it and they will rub through the hair, almost like you're rubbing mousse or gel through your hair. Once they would saturate the hair, they would then take a long stick, a thin stick, and they would roll the hair around the stick. What do we have? So basically, you have like a roller or rod, and you're setting the hair. They would go and sit out in the sun. They would go sit out in the sun, let it dry, and then they would take it down and they would shake the dirt out. What's remaining is a curl pattern. Okay, so they had pretty curls afterwards. Yes, it was dirty, but it would dry so hard, it's like clay, it would just break away. Okay, and so that's one of the things they used to do in their early practices. When they also wanted black eyeliner, they used to use charcoal or coal, per coal or charcoal as eyeliner. When they wanted something red, either in their makeup or just something red to be added, they would use the belly of bugs that had, they had a red base. And so they would squish the bugs and take that pigment mixed with, you got dirt, you got other soils, other things as well, mixed together. You have red clay, red dirt, that makes a really pretty red, and they've used that for eyeshadow, or they used to use it for blush. Okay. So it's so many things that they used to do for skincare. When it comes to skincare, they used to take oils and herbs. They were of great benefit for the skin. I'm gonna tell you now, which still is a great tradition. They would take milk, okay, and this is a, a culture. I learned this 20 some years ago. In the Indian culture, they would take milk and boil it on the stove. And this was every night, like a night facial routine. And once it bubbled up on top, they would take that bubbles from the milk on top and they would massage it into their skin. It would dry like a mask and they would go to bed really tight. Okay. When they wake up in the morning, they'll rinse it off. But when I tell you milk, guys, is a great preserver of the skin. Milk gives hydration. It can give you a little lift, but it's very sensitive. And it's one of those ingredients that does not bother the skin. When you find a hair product or when you find a skincare product that says lactic acid or lactic shampoo that has something lactic in it, that means it is a milk-based product. Now, in beauty, I like to use goat's milk. I don't know if anybody has tried that before. I like to use goat's milk. Okay, you're fine. Goat's milk is moisturizing, hydrating for the skin, and it really makes the skin look amazing. So I like to use dried goat's milk. Sometimes I add water to it. I can take a chamomile tea bag, and I'm giving you a gem. I take a chamomile tea bag, open it up, okay? I'm gonna mix that tea along with a sprinkle of goat's milk. So now I'm gonna have me, and the water is gonna be as warm as I could take it, okay? So now I have this softening, soothing solution to the skin, which is the goat's milk. And then I have the chamomile. The chamomile is going to calm the skin, hydrate the skin. The skin is going to absorb the chamomile, and you're gonna get you a good night's sleep. You're gonna be tired, you're gonna go to sleep, you're gonna have your good night's sleep. Okay. So that is going to be one of those practices, those early practices that you can still use today. And I told you guys that Monday we are going to make some products. And so what I want you to do, go ahead and put in the chat something that you want to make or you want to learn how to make. Somebody said soaps. And so I don't usually show beauty bars, but I will do like a slight demo of making a beauty bar, okay? But you have to give me a problem, and then we build the beauty bar from there, all right? So put in the chat something that you're looking forward to making. I'm not talking about just playing around like little kids. I'm talking about ingredients, container. You have a name for the product. We're gonna research and find out what that product usually goes for. What solutions does that product take care of? Is it best for hair, skin, or nails? So we want to get real active and be really intentional about the product that we're going to make. Okay. Looking at 5, we're going to summarize the current and future states of the aesthetics and cosmetology industry. So what I need you to do, go ahead and go in the chat. Everybody, I need you to participate. Everybody. What do you think the current trend is? One of the current trends for cosmetology, and what's one of the current trends for aesthetics? What are you guys seeing down your timelines that a lot of people are doing, or what style are you seeing a lot of people doing? What service do you see a lot of people jumping on now? Ooh. Okay. Facials. Yeah, I think facials are never going anywhere. But customizing, making, and I'm just giving you a gem, customizing the facial experience is going to make clients come back, because anybody could do facials. But I want you to customize the facial experience. Yes, brow tinting. Customize the facial experience. And that experience is when they pull up on the lot, that begins their experience. So even if you're working somewhere and you say, well, I ain't responsible for outside, when your client pulls up and we look at skincare and salon services, they're not cheap these days. So I'm looking at everything. Am I protected if I get out of my car? I don't want to see trash walking up to the salon before I get my hair done. I don't want to see trash walking up to the spa that I'm about to pay her $250 for a service. I don't want to see trash. So sometimes we got to make sure that it look good on the outside. Okay. We got to make sure that it look good on the inside. We got to make sure that we give them what they signed up for. All right. And so facials, permanent lip blush, and brow tint, yes, all popular. And so we're gonna customize. You said lashes. Yeah, lashes, hair extensions. Yes. I agree with all of these that you guys have stated. Okay. What you have to never forget, no matter how long you've been in the industry, you got to keep up with what's going on. And so even though you may be a cosmetologist, you just like doing pixie cuts, cut and color, but you also got to know that these are booming trades. And so if Indiana has a salon, she may say, I'm busy over here. I can't take any skin people, even though my license says I can. She might hire Danielle and say, hey, do you want to build a partnership where you can take, I do the referrals over to you and they'll still be serviced And my idea has always been when working as a team, you want all of the money to stay in-house within that team. When you start sending it out, you give the client more open availability to go other places. And so if someone's constantly asking you about brow tinting and you're just a hair person, I would learn brow tinting or get somebody in there who can brow tint. Okay. And so keeping it together, we're collaborating, working as a team is always an amazing thing. So yes, and I even see Teresa said permanent lip blush. Yeah, and you go to Tennessee, guys, that's within the scope of practice for estheticians. If you go to Tennessee, that's within the scope of practice for estheticians. Estheticians and cosmetologists, neither of you can do microblading. Neither of you can do the micro shading. Neither of you, okay? The microblading, micro shading comes under the health department, not the Tennessee State Board of Cosmetology. If you're a cosmetologist and want to do microblading, you need to go and do apprenticeship for 1 year under a barber. No, not a barber, a tattoo artist. Okay, you need to be under a tattoo artist if you want to do microblading, micro shading. So when you see an individual that says they're a cosmetologist and they're doing microblading, you have to understand what state they're in. Maybe they're not in a state. Tennessee, you got to have that apprenticeship for a year. Okay. In other areas, you ain't got to have nothing. Yeah, in other areas, you ain't got to have nothing. As far as beauty, let me tell you what comes under the health department. Electrolysis, and this is cosmetology or esthetician. Y'all, and electrolysis is going to send that needle down the pore, and it is going to send like an electrical shock to kill the hair. So electrolysis sends the needle down inside of the pore to kill the hair root. This is why you don't see the hair grow back in those areas, because they may be seeing an electrolysis. Electrolysis does not follow under Tennessee State Board of Cosmetology. So the cosmetology board can't do anything about you doing it, but the city can, because the city owns the health department. Okay, so it will be the responsibility of Memphis. Now, also, you're not able to do lasering, cosmetology or esthetician. You're not able to do any laser work, IPLs, any laser work, unless you are under a medical professional. Okay, and the medical professional, which we're talking about, a doctor's or nurse practitioner's license number. And you gotta be in real good with a doctor or a nurse practitioner that's just gonna let you work and do those medical advanced services on their license. Okay. There was a woman arrested. She was arrested maybe about a week or two ago, but she got arrested for, and we were on break when I saw this. She got arrested for malpractice or practicing outside of a medical something. But she was practicing medical services without the credentials. And so she was doing lip injections. And she was not a doctor or a nurse. She wasn't working on anybody's numbers. So you guys, especially estheticians, when you see people doing these things, they're gonna mess themselves up by posting, or they may not just be telling you all of it, that they do have their permission, and you go out there and trying to do just like them, and you're missing bits and pieces of it. So you gotta have be associated with that nurse practitioner, medical doctor. Some med spas do have a nurse on duty, and they have a medical director, which is always going to be a doctor. The doctor may never come into the building, but she has invested, and that doctor may have trained everybody and said, well, I'm good, y'all are good. let's go ahead and work. So he never has to come in, but he's probably getting a residual income by having his license attached to those individuals. And he did the training. Tennessee, Tennessee, Tennessee. Okay, again, that is not acceptable. Texas, it is. You can do some Botox. You can do different things. And there are even agencies. I met them in Texas. There are even agencies that will set you up to be a med spa and you can use their medical directors. Okay. But you got to know you're going to spend a lot of money. Okay. So if it's worth it, go for it. So that's something for you to check out. So we're going to explain how career opportunities and the history of the profession are critical. Y'all, we have to make sure that what we're learning, you're serving, you're giving it back, okay? Because if not, all of these crazy things that are happening in the world, people will lose interest and your legacy, your career will die right along with it. Okay, so that's why it's good to know the history of different things so you'll be able to educate the next one as well. Okay. Um, Learning opportunities to plan your career, historical perspective, what they used to do, what they used to make, and early beauty preparation materials and culture. Culture has shaped everything, a lot of things. Let me pause and see if that brow lamination class has started. Y'all, let's take a 5 and let me see if I could get logged in. We're going to go to class, okay? Let's take a 5. Okay, so I put the link in the group on Facebook. Okay. Now look, one at a time, you can go to the Facebook group and click the link. In actuality, let me put the link, put it in the chat. All right. So I still give you time. Okay. So if you see the link, go ahead and click it. And it's a brow lamination and makeup class that's going on. Okay. Click the link and go ahead and join. I'm going to close this video out and I'm going to send everybody the summary of today's class. So we're going to close the class out by jumping on this webinar for brow lamination. We're a little late, but we can get some good stuff in and I make sure you all have credit for it. So click the link in the chat where it says join webinar and go ahead and go over. Okay, click the link for me, ladies. All right, Tanaya, are you there? Click the link that says join webinar in the chat.